Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tales of the Pod podcast. My name's Michaela, I'm your host.
And I'm your co-host, Nick. How's it going, guys?
So this week we are going to be talking about quite possibly our favorite horror movie, I would say. We're going to be talking about 2016's Terrifier that introduced us to our Lord and Savior, Art the Clown.
Yes.
Who has become just an icon in the horror community, I think, since... Maybe not since this movie came out. I think more since the second movie came out.
Yeah, I definitely think he had a big blow up after the second one because it was a theater release movie.
Yeah, the second one got a theater release. The first one was we found one day just scrolling on Tubi.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, this looks cool, whatever.
Yeah, it's a clown horror, I didn't think much of it at the time.
We were definitely taken back when we saw this. And ever since seeing it, we've been just completely obsessed with Art the Clown. And the second one just made it so much better. And the fact they're making a third one is just crazy. So we're going to talk about the first one, probably our hopes for the third one as well.
Yeah.
Discuss our love for Art the Clown.
Yes, that's what the goal is of today.
So Terrifier was a 2016 American slasher film, and boy, was it a goddamn slasher film, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Written and directed by Damien Leone, and he went on to do the second one. He's also producing the third one, so he's making this a whole trilogy franchise kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it all kind of surrounds this serial killer, Art the Clown, and for anybody that doesn't know, he's like a mime, almost.
Yeah.
Like
he's not like a clown, I don't know.
Like a typical clown?
Yeah, like Pennywise or anything.
Yeah.
He's more of like a mime, like the...
Like
white and black.
Yeah.
Kind of attire and everything like that. He's not like a colorful, clown.
No. He's just... Which I think makes it creepier that he's a mime and he doesn't talk.
Yeah, he doesn't, talk at all.
Yeah.
And he does have, the mime, face. He's got, the eyebrows are, surprised looking and everything. The paint on his face and everything. And
it's played by David Howard Thornton.
Yes.
And he does a phenomenal job as Art the Clown. To play a scary character and not be able to really talk, but to use, your face and your, hands to express emotion and fear is just really, really good, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, essentially, it surrounds the events of Art the Clown on Halloween night, this whole movie.
Yes. Well, now, is this where he makes his debut, or was All Hallows Eve his debut?
So, it's kind of... So, there was a movie that came out earlier called All Hallows Eve, and it was kind of about Art the Clown as well, but it wasn't played by David Howard Thornton yet.
Yes.
It was played by a different guy, but I guess that's technically when Art the Clown got his debut.
Yeah.
He wasn't as... sadistic, I would say.
Yeah, because it was kind of like an anthology horror, that movie.
Yes.
So you only got to see, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of Art the Clown.
Yes. Not what he deserved at all.
Right.
But I think that's where the idea kind of came from.
Yes.
But in my mind, I think this is where he really got his breakout role.
For sure.
As, its own character and, separates himself as almost his own, villain in the horror genre.
Right.
So it starts out with this talk show, and the host, Monica Brown, she's kind of like the Dr. Phil, I would say, of talk show hosts. She's definitely trying to exploit her guests.
Yeah, for sure.
And she has this survivor on who is a severely disfigured woman. Her name is Vicky, right?
Yeah, Vicky, I believe her name is.
And apparently she was horribly disfigured by Art the Clown.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on this talk show talking about it. And while Monica, the talk show host, is in her dressing room, she kind of makes all these comments like, oh, I wanted to throw up when I saw her face. Just terrible.
Yeah, just being completely
mean.
Rude.
Super mean. And this disfigured woman, Vicky, had been eavesdropping. So she kind of breaks into the room and she attacks Monica, the talk show host, and, rightfully so, gouges out her eyeballs.
Yeah.
Which, fair.
Yeah, and you're seeing it all, the whole time, too. I mean, it's very gory.
And that's how it starts.
Yeah.
So it kind of starts with, the aftermath of the events that we're about to see.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
And then it switches to the events of Halloween night.
Right.
And there's two friends, Tara and Dawn. And they're, typical scary movie hotties, dressed up in, hoe costumes on Halloween night.
Yep.
They're drunk, they leave a party, and they run into Art the Clown.
Yeah.
And he's being super weird. He's carrying just, a trash bag walking down the street. But it's Halloween night, so it's fair that he's dressed up the way he is. Yeah, they don't think
really much of it,
Yeah, it's whatever. And they're drunk, so of course they go to a pizzeria.
Mm-hmm.
And Art the Clown follows them in there. And the one friend... Tara.
Dawn. No, Dawn.
I think it's Tara.
Which one? No, the one that goes over to Art and starts.
No. I was gonna say Tara is kind of sus of Art.
Yeah.
She's kind of that guy's following us. He's being creepy. And her friend Dawn, they make her the stereotypical dumb blonde.
Yeah.
And she's just no, he's just fun. Meh, he's fun, whatever. So she goes over and she sits on Art the Clown's lap, and she's like, see, he's harmless, and she takes a selfie with him.
Yeah, and the whole time he's, like, glaring at her, though. Yes. He's just, like, so mad.
And you can see in his face he is just not amused. Yeah. Like, he's just staring at them like this. And she's, like, sitting on his lap, like, take a picture with me, man, like, thinking that she's, I don't know, just being a drunk girl in a pizza shop on Halloween night, which is fair. Yeah. But Tara knows that something is up, and she and Dawn, they leave the pizza shop, and we find out that Art the Clown wouldn't eat anything. He was just, like, sitting at the booth like this, just glaring, right? And the owner of the pizza shop comes up. He's some Italian guy. He's like, hey, man, you gotta eat something or you gotta go.
Yeah, you can't loiter.
You can't loiter. And he's just sitting there like this, just, like, so glaring. And it's so creepy because he's just sitting there with his arms folded, just like this.
Yeah.
And, he finally goes into the bathroom in the pizza shop and just wrecks it.
Yeah.
Like,
shit on the walls.
Shit everywhere. Wrote on the wall, like, Art was here.
Yes.
And, there's, like, some comedic relief in this, because one of the pizza workers is like, I don't get paid enough to do this. This is minimum wage.
Because he's got to go clean up the mess, and
he's got to go clean it up.
Poop on the walls, and he's like, I don't get paid enough for this. So
then Tara and Dawn go out to their car, and they find that Dawn's tires have been slashed. Mm-hmm. And Tara immediately was like, it's that clown. Like, he's following us. It was him.
Right.
And Dawn's like, no, it's okay. Like, we'll just call somebody, whatever. So Tara calls her sister Vicky, who was the disfigured woman in the beginning.
Yes.
And calls her to come pick him up.
Right.
Well, after Art left, it kind of, like, flashes back between the girls and, like, what's Art's doing until, like, their paths meet up.
Yeah.
And it shows Art back at the pizza shop. And they're like, no, you can't be in here. Get out of here. You wrecked my bathroom, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he kills them in the most brutal way possible.
Yeah.
And he kills the one worker that works there, cuts off his head and makes him like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, exactly.
Puts candles in his eyes, has him like sitting there on the counter.
Out, and he's sitting on top of the counter like looking like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yep, which is just brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. So the girls are back outside waiting for their car, waiting for their ride, nowhere to really go, and Tara really has to pee. So she sees this worker outside of this like abandoned building, and she's like, hey, can you let me in and pee? And he's like, I'm not really supposed to, whatever. And her friend Dawn, she's so funny. She's like, we'll make it worth your while.
Yeah.
They just make her such like the dumb drunk blonde.
Yes, exactly.
So anyways, she goes in there to use the bathroom, and shit starts to get weird. There's like a cat lady in there that's homeless.
Yeah, it's like this weird abandoned building. We don't really know. It's probably like an old, like, I don't know, slum house apartment thing, like it's all kind of derelict and run down. And
yeah, I think the guy working there is like pest control or something, and he's spraying because he's wearing like a jumpsuit.
Yes.
But she runs into this cat lady, and very weird vibes. Like the cat lady's carrying a baby doll, and she's like, save the baby, and like just being very...
definitely like mental illness there for sure.
Yes. And then, this whole time you kind of see like the parallels between Art and like Dawn just waiting outside, just like fresh meat, just waiting for Art the Clown.
Yeah.
So he attacks Dawn, and he goes after Tara with a sedative, right?
Yes.
So Tara awakens, and she's tied down to a chair, and in front of her, this is probably arguably one of the best kill scenes in any scary movie. But Tara wakes up, and she's tied down to a chair. She has duct tape across her mouth. And in front of her is her friend Dawn, and she's hanging upside down.
Completely
naked, upside down. She has duct tape over her mouth as well. Her legs are kind of spread. They're hanging from different parts of the ceiling, I would say.
Yeah.
And she's hanging upside down, and she just looks petrified.
Yes.
She's screaming. You tell she's trying to scream through the tape. And as Tara's sitting there, she can't move. She's trying to get up. She's tied down to the chair.
Right.
And Art basically makes her watch this whole thing.
Yeah.
And he takes an old rusty saw, hacksaw, and starts sawing Dawn from, I guess her genitalia would be the best way to put it, down to her head.
Sawing her in two pieces.
Literally sawing her in two pieces, like reverse. Just starting with like what's already... And, makes Tara watch all of it, right?
Yeah.
And she's screaming, and it's showing it, and you hear the noises, you see the blood, like, it looks pretty realistic.
Like you're hearing, like, imagine. Yeah.
It's almost like your brain fills in, like, what you don't see in these kind of scenes. Mm-hmm. And you hear, like, the saw, like, kind of being hard, like, making its way down.
Cutting through, like, bone and
cutting through
flesh.
everything, And I just can't even imagine. Like, you woke up, you're already confused because you were sedated. And you're like, where the hell am I? I'm in this random apartment building.
Right.
And you wake up and your friend's just being sawed in half.
Yeah, literally.
By a guy in a clown costume.
Yeah, by a mine. Yeah, it's pretty intense scene. Definitely, like, iconic as hell, in my opinion. I remember I made my mom, when I was watching it, I was like, Mom, you gotta come in and see this. This is insane. I made her come in and watch it, and she's like, why'd you show me that?
It's so... like, creative. Like, I've never seen that in any other movie, really.
I've seen it in one other movie. I can't remember what came out first. I think the one I'm thinking of came out before.
What movie is it?
Bone Tomahawk.
Oh,
with Kurt Russell.
yeah. That was
kind of
those.
like a very similar scene, but
yes.
Not with a hacksaw. It was like with this freaking, I don't even know what it was. It was like
I know what you're talking about.
Homemade, like, rock axe. I don't know.
Yeah, so that was definitely... probably, like, the best kill scene of the movie, I would say.
I would definitely say so.
But it's just so out of pocket, because you're kind of watching this movie, and it's, like, a weird vibe. And you're like, obviously he's chasing them, he's going to kill them. Yeah,
it's kind of like, in the way he films it, it's like 80s slasher horror.
Yes.
And it's kind of like the filter he uses, too, for, like, the filming is very, like, kind of reminiscent of, like, the 1980s movies and stuff like that. And it's just got, like, one of those 80s vibes.
It's all, like,
and
fuzzy.
The music as well, too, is very, like, 80s, like Dario Argento synthesizer kind of rock music type deal.
So Tara escapes after seeing this. She gets out of the chair, and her and are kind of like a cat and mouse game. They kind of chase each other throughout this building.
Yes. And
she's pretty smart. Like, she's hiding in, like, abandoned cars and things like that. But obviously, Art, you know, he wins in the end. He's like the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
So this cat lady comes back, which I've seen this movie like 10 times, and I still don't understand the purpose of the cat lady.
I don't either.
That has the baby doll.
Yeah.
But there's one scene where it flips back to the cat lady. She's in this apartment, right? And Art took her baby doll. Yeah. And he's holding it, and he's kind of rocking it like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's super creepy.
He's like sitting cross-legged like a little kid, rocking it. And then for a second, you're kind of like, oh, like he's sad. Like maybe he's lonely. And the woman comes up to him, and she tries to kind of show compassion and cradle him and be like, oh, you've never had a mom that loved you, did you? And like cradle him, and like for a second, he has like a little bit of compassion, remorse, emotion.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh.
Yeah,
and you see his face.
On her shoulder and everything, and he's kind of like, aw.
And then, of course, he flips and kills her.
Yeah. Yeah, he kills her, too.
And she's pleading. She's like, no, give me the baby doll back. And he's just rocking it. It's a creepy, well-effective scene. She's probably just some homeless person that lives in the building. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's just a homeless lady that snuck in and lives underneath the building.
Yep. And then, so Tara escapes, and same time, Art the Clown goes after the pest control guy, because she runs into the pest control guy, and she's like, we need to escape, we need to go, there's a man chasing me.
Yes.
And I feel bad for him, because he gets killed, and all he did was let her in the building.
Yeah, literally, he could have avoided the whole situation.
He could have avoided everything.
He really could.
But he gets killed pretty brutally as well. And then they kind of have a showdown together, and finally the cops show up, and they shoot Art the Clown.
Yes.
But I think he already killed Tara. I don't remember if he stabbed her or what he did to her.
Yeah, I think it was... I think he stabbed her. I think he was going to start eating her, too.
Yes, he did. He did start eating her.
He was sort of, like, cutting, like, chunks of her flesh off, and then the cops came and shot him, and he, dies. Well, dies.
Well, yeah, and then before the cops show up, Tara's sister, Vicky, actually came as well, but they never actually kind of see each other. Like, Vicky's trying to kind of fire away around this building, and she's like, what is happening here?
Yes.
And she gets attacked by Art the Clown at the very end as well.
Yeah.
And he's eating her face off.
Yes.
And while he's eating her face off, the cops shot him like 10 times.
Yeah, that's who, yes.
Before he actually died. And you can hear them on the radio. They're like, unknown male, like, found, he was eating her face off.
Yeah,
like,
you
it
can
took
hear,
like 10
the police
bullets.
dispatch and everything like that.
And they're all, like, kind of freaking out. They're like, what the hell? We had to shoot him, like, 10 times. Like, he was, like, almost, like, supernatural-esque.
Yeah.
And he was literally eating this woman's face off. And then that's the woman that we see in the beginning that's on the talk show with her face all disfigured.
Yes.
Like, she's missing an eyeball. Her skin's all messed up.
Right. And that basically cuts the movie right there. So then it picks up with Terrifier 2. It basically is Art at the morgue. They bring his body to the morgue and everything like that, and he's dead. And what happens then is he somehow, I don't know, they don't really explain, but he comes back to life.
Yes.
And he starts attacking the mortician. He cuts the mortician's eyeball out of his head because Art's missing an eye.
Because he was shot in the head.
Because he was shot in the head like 5 times. So, and then he puts his eyeball in his head, and it like adjusts and everything and fixes it. And then he ends up leaving there. He's in his underwear. He's got his bag. I don't know why they brought the bag of his tricks.
Yeah, but he's got that trash bag that he was carrying with all the hacksaws.
Yeah, with all his murder weapons and everything. And he goes to a laundromat, and from there we kind of get the first kind of like sense that, okay, there's definitely obviously something supernatural about Art, because then I'll let you continue on. He starts seeing this little girl that's not there, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, he sees this little girl that's like kind of dressed similar to him, like if you were to picture Art the Clown, but as a young child.
In a girl
form. And we can tell that he's the only one seeing her because he's sitting on the floor, like, naked of this laundromat. At least he went to go get his clothes washed.
Yeah, he had his clothes to go get washed.
And he's playing patty cake with her. And there's this guy that, like, is drunk, and he wakes up in the laundry mat or whatever. And he looks at Art, and he's just a naked man sitting there covered in blood playing patty cake, but there's nobody there.
Yeah, and he still has his, like, makeup on. So, like, you know, his face is, like, all mimed out, but he's just, like, naked white dude in his underwear playing patty cake with, like, the thin air, you know. It's kind of comical. Like, I like how Damien does that with the movie.
And the guy wakes up, and he's probably just like, I drink too much.
Yeah, he's probably like, what the hell's going on here?
What did I take?
Yeah. Like... But then, yeah, basically after that, Art kills the guy, obviously, but he's completely healed. Like, his face is, the eye took to his skin and everything like that. So there's definitely something supernatural or demonic with Art the Clown that we, like, come to find out.
Yeah, and then we get introduced to our new main character, Sienna. Sienna Shaw, and it cuts to her, and Art kind of targets her, specifically her and her friends and her family. And we kind of find, I mean, I think we'll find out more in the third movie, but there's some kind of connection between, like, Sienna's dad and Art the Clown as well. Like, he was, like, doing some drawings of Art the Clown, so it's like, were they working together somehow? But, like, I thought about it a lot, and I'm like, I don't understand who the dad could have been in the first movie. Like, he couldn't have been in the first movie because everybody died.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean...
I don't think it's going to tie into that, because I feel like... Yeah, I don't know how they're going to tie the first movie into it.
Because the first movie was just a kill fest.
Yeah, I think that was just more... I think it was supposed to be, like, a one-and-done film. And then, but, like, people started, like, really loving it, and, you know, okay, I'll make a second one, and then people absolutely went fanatical over it. I mean, it did amazing at the box office. There was... I mean, it got a 7.8 almost.
Which is unheard of for a gory movie.
Yeah, so I think that, I don't think it'll tie in with one at all. I think, like, this will be, like, basically the first of, like, the Art the Clown, whatever it ends up being, you know?
Yeah, like the new franchise or story or whatever it is, but
yeah, it kind of, it's weird, though, because you don't really, it doesn't really make a lot of sense in the movie, but I'm hoping in the third one they'll kind of tie some stuff together and make sense of what happens in the second one.
Which that's been done before in franchises, where you have to wait till like the third or fourth movie to be like, oh, okay.
Yes, like the Hell House franchise does that very well.
True.
Like, there's kind of stuff that's like, who's that person, or why does that even matter right now? But then you find out in later films, it's like, oh, okay, I remember that name or whatever.
And it's what's crazy about the first movie is the budget was only $35K, and the special effects are so well done. Like, just hanging her upside down alone and cutting her, like, that looks so realistic.
It did look pretty real for being. Like,
and like the pest control guy, they decapitate him, and that. I mean, everything in this movie looks realistic.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
for the most part, I mean, I think like the effects, the way it was shot, and like putting like the '80s spin on it, and like the fuzzy film, and like the filtering that was on it, definitely helped. Like with the making everything look real and all that. But I think for the budget, it was done really well. And I guess David Howard Thornton, that plays Art the Clown, his audition was literally like, okay, pretend that you're a mime and you're choking somebody. And I guess he did so well that they're like sold, like right on the spot.
Right.
Which that is, I mean, that's talent.
No, that is talent.
To not say anything or make any noise and still be like...
Oh yeah, if he practiced, like if he was a mime, he'd be perfect for the role, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I love more about the second movie, is it gives Art the Clown, I think, more of a personality. We see more of his personality in this.
I think so, yeah, because he's kind of, I mean, it starts out with him, you're not introduced to him, like, 10 or 15 minutes into the movie.
Right, and I think the first one he was like, almost like he had just like a straight vengeance. This one he kind of like lollygags a little bit, he's in the Halloween store, and he's kind of like...
Well, yeah, let's continue walking through it. We can tell the people about it. So, where were we? We get introduced to our main, character, Sienna. Yeah. And her family, and Art basically is targeting her. Really no motive, obviously. I think there's just something that
maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, that ties them together.
It's kind of like Halloween and Laurie Strode, like Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
At first, we're kind of like, why her?
Right, and I think, like you said, there's something, that her father might have known him, or her father could be Art the Clown, because the father's no longer in the picture. He died.
Oh, that would be a plot twist.
So it could be. I mean, I'm just making, obviously, just opinions and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, so we open up to Sienna, and she's working on her Halloween costume, and she's making this, like, warrior piece, because her dad was also an artist, and he drew a picture of this, like, warrior princess.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a Valkyrie from Norse mythology, if anybody,
Yeah, so we open up to her, and she's kind of looking at the sketchbook, and, like, making the wings and everything. And she's, like, a teenage girl in her bedroom, like, typical scary movie.
Yeah.
And, they kind of discuss how her dad died of a brain tumor, which is kind of sus, too, because I guess the dad could be Art the Clown because he was shot in the head, so maybe that was something.
Maybe. I don't know. But they said he went, like, crazy, basically, with this brain tumor and, like, drove into, like, a building and then lit himself on fire.
Yeah, that's
So
terrible.
It's like, basically, this brain tumor made him go crazy. But that's just briefly mentioned.
Yeah, it's not talked about much at all.
Yeah.
Her younger brother, Jonathan, kind of became obsessed with the dad's sketchbook, which had sketches of Art the Clown in it.
Yes.
So, for Halloween, Sienna's being this, like, princess warrior thing, and Jonathan wants to be Art the Clown.
Yeah, he wants to dress up like him.
Yes. And, they're kind of like, that's so insensitive, like, you can't dress up as a serial killer, or whatever. You can tell he's kind of a weird kid.
Yeah, definitely,
And that night, we get the iconic scene where Sienna has a nightmare, and we go to the Clown Cafe.
Yeah.
She has a nightmare about Art the Clown, and it's almost like...
It's almost like a premonition, almost, she has about him.
And it's so cool, because it's like a kid's show, almost.
Mm-hmm.
But Art the Clown is, like, the main guy. Like, if it was, like, Blue's Clues, and then Steve would be Art the Clown, like, he'd be the main dude.
Yes. There's, like, children sitting on this playground, and they're, like, singing and everything like that. Like, having a good old time. It kind of reminded me like Barney, almost. You know?
Or, like, the Wiggles, kind of, like, all the bright colors.
Yeah. And then here comes Art the Clown, though.
And he comes out on, like, a little tricycle, and you just can't help... I don't know, maybe this is messed up, but you just can't help but laugh.
It's funny. And he's, like, waving to all the kids. He's like, hello. They're not, like, children. They're probably, like,
Teens.
teenagers. They're not, like, young kids.
And he's got his little horn. He's like, burp, burp.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's like, oh, yeah. And he, like, goes around to each kid, and he's, like, pulling something out of his sack of stuff. And there's, like, ice cream with, like, worms in it and stuff like that. And then
there's cereal with razor blades in it.
Yeah, and then it just takes a turn. He pulls out this Tommy gun and just completely mows down all these kids. And it's really fucked up. And
it's really messed up.
Sienna's just like, what the hell? This is all a dream, obviously.
And she kind of, like, crawls away somehow.
Yeah, she, like, gets out of the line of fire.
Yeah, and he, like, walks right up to her at the end, so, like, they make eye contact, and you can tell, like, he knows who she is, she knows who he is.
Yes, it's some sort of, like, dream. This is where we're like, okay, he's definitely supernatural. It's, like, Freddy Krueger vibes. It's like he's in her dream right now.
Mm-hmm. And then it switches to reality, and we wake up, and her Halloween costume is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this sword in her room that her dad had given her, and the whole room essentially burned to a crisp except for the sword. Yeah. So that's another aspect, too. Like, did the dad bless the sword?
Yeah,
is that a supernatural thing?
A supernatural, like, object, you know? It could be something, like, holy.
Like that.
I don't know,
And her mom's pissed. Her mom's like, oh, you left your candles burning again. And she's like, no, I swear I didn't.
Yeah.
And, of course, no one believes her. So we're thinking, like, is he supernatural enough that he started a fire in her room and burned her costume?
That's
and
what I'm kind of thinking.
Why burn the costume? Did the costume have some kind of meaning or...
Right.
I'm not sure. So the next day is Halloween, and Jonathan, her little brother, sees this clown child thing that we saw in the beginning at the laundromat.
Yeah. I guess it would be a demon that follows Art around with. There's some sort of, like, because you can tell it's not obviously a good spirit.
Absolutely not. Definitely not.
It's a demon little girl. And then he actually finds, like, a newspaper clipping as he's looking, like, because he's, like, obsessed with Art the Clown. He's like, kind of like how we are obsessed with Art the Clown. He's, like, looking up, like, the murders and stuff he committed, and there was, like, the picture of this little girl, and it actually is this demon clown, little girl clown. She was, like, one of Art's first victims that went missing from a carnival, like, many years ago.
Yep. he sees her at school and she's playing with a dead possum in the middle of, like, the hallway. Mm-hmm. And he's, like, walking up to her and there's this whole scene and eventually, you know, nobody else can see her except for, like, whoever the person is.
Yeah, whoever's being shown her, I guess, you know.
And, of course, the teacher's like, and isn't the teacher, the teacher is, what's her name from Sleepaway Camp? Isn't
it's Angela. Yeah, Angela from Sleepaway Camp. I forget who plays her, but, yeah, it's pretty cool. He does put a cameo of her from Sleepaway Camp in it, so that's pretty cool.
Neat. And she's the teacher, she's pissed. She's like, you brought a dead possum into school? He's like, no, I didn't. I didn't.
I know, like, his hands are, like, all bloody. He's, like, actually holding it, too. Like, I don't know, ends up in his hands, so.
Yep.
Then it cuts to him at home.
It cuts to him at home, and then while that's happening, it's kind of, like, side by side between, like, what the brother's going through and what the sister's going through at the same time.
Yeah.
And Sienna, her and her friends were, like, sitting there talking, and they're pretty, I don't know, they're kind of, like, insensitive. And they start talking about the iconic TV moment that we watched prior with the toast and the Vicky that got her face eaten off. They start talking about that, and Sienna kind of starts to have a panic attack.
Right.
And they talk her down. They're like, hey, like, we'll go to the Halloween store after school because we're going out on Halloween night, whatever.
Yeah.
So then they go to the Halloween store, and, of course, Art's there.
Yeah.
Like, they're just looking around casually, and this is my favorite part of the whole movie, is they're just looking around casually, and then Sienna sees Art kind of everywhere she turns.
Yeah.
And she starts to get really freaked out, so she's going to the checkout counter to check out quickly, and she's trying to pay at the front, and she turns around, and Art's just trying on different sunglasses.
Yeah, like funny glasses.
Like funny glasses.
Like, he's got the Marx Brothers glasses, Groucho Marx glasses on.
The ones with the eyeballs.
Yeah, the eyes that hang out. He's got, like, the, I don't know, Thelma and Louise ones where they're, like, you know, and it's very funny. Yeah, and he's, like, doing, like, she keeps looking over her shoulder because she's, like, obviously really nervous, like, who is this guy? And he's just, like, you know, doing faces at her and stuff like that, and she's, like, getting more and more nervous. He's, like, sitting there with the slinky eyeball ones, and he's just, like, bobbing back and forth, and it's really fun. Like, you're gonna laugh when you watch it, because it is really funny. You can't not laugh.
You can't.
And then he comes up with, like, he finds a horn, and he goes up behind her, and he starts honking the horn, and she's like, please stop, and then the clerk's finally like, dude, leave her alone. Like, and then he gets pissed. He's like, you know, looks at the clerk and is very upset that he said something to him.
When he, like, gets mad, his face kind of, like, you can see because he has, like, lipstick on, so you can see, like, it kind of starts to get, like, a scowl when he gets angry. But he lets Sienna leave the shop with her friend, Allie. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he attacks the store clerk because he wants to get revenge, so he changes the open sign to closed and brutally goes after the store clerk.
Yeah.
And then he ends up putting him out front of the store as, like, a Halloween decoration.
Yeah, he's actually holding him, like, holding his head and, like, standing in the displays like Art the Clown is. He's just, like, standing in the displays, and, like, this one kid's like, whoa, that's really real looking. Like, he's looking through the window and everything. And the
mom's like, no, we'll keep going. We're not getting that.
Yeah, we're not going.
And then it cuts to Sienna's friend's Allie's house, who's getting ready for their night out or whatever, because they're all supposed to go out. It's Halloween night.
Yes.
And Art knocks on her door with a little bag of candy. Mm-hmm. And she's like, aren't you too old to be trick-or-treating? Which, you know, a fatal mistake.
Yeah, she was very, like, rude to him. I think if she would have just given him candy, he probably would have left her alone, honestly. Yeah.
Because he was, like, all, like, smiling and everything, and she wouldn't give him candy. And then, of course, he broke into her house, and I think we talked about this previously, but this is, like, the most brutal kill scene I've seen in a while.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably 5 to 6 minutes long of him just brutally maiming her.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he doesn't even kill her. That's the thing. It's like, he's just, like, maiming her, like, beyond recognition.
Like, peeling skin off, pouring bleach on her, just pure flesh, pouring salt on her flesh.
Yeah, on her open, like, on her muscle, basically. Yes. You know, just open wounds.
He scalps her at one point.
Breaks
he does
her
something
arm
to her eye.
And, like, rips her arm off when he breaks it.
He would just takes her arm and, like, twists it. It's almost like he has, like, super strength.
Oh, yeah, he definitely does. You know, he's definitely supernatural with that.
And twists it off and, cuts her leg off. Her eye's missing. I mean, she is just, like...
Yeah.
Just kill me at that point,
honestly. Yeah, exactly. Like... And then her mom comes in, like, you know, like, Allie, are you okay? She sees somebody broke in the house, goes upstairs, and Art's, like, in the bed with Allie, like, cutting her, like, flesh off and, like, playing with it. She's like, hi, Mommy, like, says it to the mom. And, like, Art's, like, starts, like, laughing hysterically and stuff like that, you know.
Oh, my God, yeah, that's such a...
But he's a mime, so he's, like gesturing laughing. Yeah, he's not, like, no sounds coming out, but he's, like, you can tell he's, like, thinks it's the funniest thing ever.
He'll do, like, a knee slap here and there, like, things that let you know that he thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, this whole time while she's being maimed, Sienna's trying to call her and be like, you know, where are you at? We're supposed to go out tonight.
Soon,
whatever. She's obviously not answering. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to the little brother, Jonathan. He's at home. and their mom goes outside to look at the car or something. She hears something in the garage or something.
Yeah.
And the car is all, like, decked out in, like, whipped cream and feathers, like, typical, like, Halloween prank kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she thinks it's Jonathan, so she's pissed at first.
Yeah.
And then she starts to move the whipped cream, like, to see if it will wipe off, right?
Yeah.
And this is a scary part, I would say. This actually happened. She, like, wipes it off the driver's side door, and there's Art just sitting in there.
Yeah, he's, like, sitting inside the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he takes the gun and shoots her in the face.
Yeah. And Jonathan, he ran away because his mom and him got into a fight, and he was, like, blaming...
Something like that.
Yeah, blaming Jonathan for it. So he wasn't home at the time, but then he does come back after his mom gets killed. And he's like, I'm sorry, Mom, or whatever, And it wasn't obviously Jonathan who TP'd the car,
Yeah, I'm laughing because of the next part.
Yeah.
Art has the mom, like, sitting at the dining room table. Well, first of all, he's shocked to see Art the Clown in his house.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell?
But he's a kid, so he's kind of just like, fight, flight, or freeze. He's kind of just, like, frozen.
Yes.
And Art the Clown comes out, and the mom's face is all mangled because she was shot in the face. So it's just, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, she's
sitting at the table, and Art's got, like, an apron on and everything.
And he comes out with a bowl of potatoes like he's a little housewife. And he puts it on her plate, and then she doesn't eat it, obviously, because she's dead.
Yeah,
and he looks at her. And he looks at her, and he gets so mad, he's like, like, eat it. And she obviously does it, so he takes a handful of it and shoves it in her mangled dead face.
Yeah, like there's like it's just like a hole in where her face should be now, and
he's just shoving mashed potatoes.
Yeah, and he's like laughing. Like, he thinks it's the funniest thing ever. And he chases what's his name, Jonathan upstairs, and he ends up drugging him. He gives him a shot of whatever that sedative is he uses.
Yeah, he likes his sedatives.
Yeah, and he takes him to like the abandoned carnival that learned
he likes to go to.
Yeah, there's like that's like a place there where I guess his first victim was taken from.
And all while this is happening, Sienna's out with her friend Brooke, and she took, would she take ecstasy?
Yeah, her friend Brooke drugged her drink.
Yeah, gave her ecstasy.
And Sienna's got like mental problems too.
Of course.
Her father, she's on like some sort of
some psych meds.
Yeah, some psych meds because she has problems obviously with dealing with the loss of her father and stuff like that. So
which is completely fair. And so she's kind of out of it, but she's trying to have a good time. She's like, I want you to relax tonight, forget about everything you've gone through.
Yeah.
So they're dancing, they're having a good time. And then she gets a call from Jonathan, but it's not really Jonathan.
Yeah.
It's the clown
demon child.
And somehow she possessed Jonathan's voice, and she's like, I need your help. I'm at the carnival. Like, come get me.
Yeah. Art has me or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she starts freaking out, and she tells her friend, like, we need to drive to the carnival now. So it's her friend Brooke, and Brooke's boyfriend that drive there.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to go inside the carnival, so Sienna's like, fine, I'll go on my own. And then this part's funny. What does he do to the guy?
Oh. Well, they because they get there and Sienna goes off into the carnival looking for Jonathan, and her friend and her boyfriend stay, and they're like making out in the car, they're doing more drugs and everything like that. And then like they hear something, and the guy goes out and he goes. First he comes back and scares his girlfriend, and then he's like, all right, I gotta take a pee. So he's behind the car peeing, and then Art like climbs out from underneath the car and rips off his balls and his dick, and then like he screams and she's like, what the hell? And then Art runs up to the window and puts it on the window, like his balls and his dick and everything like that, and he again laughing hysterically at it, and she's freaking out, and she runs off. She actually knocks Art to the ground. She I think
she makes it a little far.
Yeah, she trips him or kicks him or something, and he falls, and he's you could tell he's damn it, I fell.
I went to some bitch trip me.
Yeah. You can tell he's kind of oh, man.
And she gets, a decent amount of way. She meets up with Sienna in a bathroom at one point.
No, I think he gets up and chases her into the bathroom. Sienna finds her in the bathroom.
Oh, okay, Sienna finds her in the bathroom. Yeah. He chases her to the bathroom, and she's like, no, please, no, please.
Yeah, again. He, clubs her to death with, this board with a bunch of nails in it, and, her chest caves in and everything. There's blood and guts everywhere, and...
It's brutal.
Yeah, and then Sienna obviously comes in and finds her, and then they have, a little squalor in the bathroom. She gets, knocked out,
She gets knocked unconscious by Art.
Yeah, then Art goes and looks for the little brother.
Yep, and when Sienna wakes up, he's, using a scalpel on the younger brother.
Yes.
And, is, starting to attack him with his own weapons. And for being a kid in this movie, I would say they show him getting attacked a lot by Art. Usually they don't show kids getting attacked.
Definitely a minor. Yeah.
But he's definitely a minor. He's taking the beating pretty well.
Yeah.
And, throughout this whole time, like, Sienna and Art are kind of, like, going back and forth, having this whole thing. And I would say Art is killed, like, several times by these siblings.
Yes.
And he just keeps coming back.
Yeah,
coming back.
You're like 100% convinced there's something supernatural with him.
Yep. And then he ends up killing Sienna, but he uses her father's sword to kill her, and somehow the sword at the same time, like, resurrects her.
Yeah.
And when she like, comes to, he's, like, trying to eat Jonathan, because Jonathan's passed out. I don't know what this thing is with eating all these people.
He just, like, he's a cannibal, I guess.
So she wakes up, and she's resurrected by the sword, and she decapitates Arm.
Yeah.
And at this point, the little pal clown girl takes his head away and just walks away with it.
Yeah.
So Sienna and Jonathan kind of think they got away. Like, okay, we killed them.
Yeah.
We won.
Yep.
And then it kind of rolls credits. Yeah. And it goes to this, like, psych facility where Chris Jericho is a nurse.
Yes, the wrestler Chris Jericho.
So random. Such a random cameo. And it's Halloween night, and they're kind of like, oh, have you checked on...
it's Vicky.
It's Vicky, yeah. But they call her something. And they're like...
they call her, like, number whatever, the patient, you know,
they're like, have you checked on so-and-so in a while? Like, she's crazy or whatever. And they're like, no, I don't really want to go in there.
Yeah.
And it kind of cuts to Vicky's cell, which Vicky is the woman that got her face eaten off in the beginning. She was on the talk show, whatever.
From the first movie.
Mm-hmm. And she's standing there, or she's sitting on the ground, and her legs are spread open. And it looks like she gave birth to Art's head.
Yeah.
And on the wall, it says Vicky plus Art and a heart.
Yeah.
And she's, like, laughing and, like, crying.
Yeah, it's got Art's head, and, like, Art's head is, like, you know, smiling and looking at them, and then it ends officially. The movie ends there.
Yes.
So that leaves you, like, there's obviously going to be a third one, and we do have a release date for it now. It's October 11th. Terrifier 3 will be released to theaters.
And we know that it's about the same person. It's about Sienna. It's a continuation of the same story.
It is. It's going to be a continuation, so that's going to be interesting to see how they tie everything together. But it's going to be set in Christmas time.
I love that.
So it's going to be... I wish they were releasing it more around Christmas, because...
it's hard, because I like seeing those movies during Halloween time, because of the vibe and everything, but I do agree if it's Christmassy, yeah.
I think it would be better, but, you know, I want it to come as soon as possible, because I love...
I'd watch it today, yeah.
Yeah, and Terrifier, the second one, it's so well received by so many people. It got, like, such great reviews.
86% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and Damien Leone just knocked it out of the park with that one. And
he made $1 million opening weekend.
Yes.
And what's cool about it is I saw a few things where, you know, he tried to work with a few different production companies, and they were all like, no, we're not putting that in a movie.
Yeah.
So he ended up kind of just having to fund his own thing, but he believes in his idea so much that he was like, no, I'm not compromising any of the gore.
Yeah, he literally, like, I watched something, or read this article about him not, you know, basically the first 10 minutes of the movie, he showed these people, like, you know, producers or whatever.
Oh, and they all said no?
Yeah, and they're like, absolutely not. We're not, you know, funding you for any of this. So he, again, all the money he made off the second one, he basically dumped back into making the third one. So we hope it's going to be super. And this is like a movie for people that love gore. This isn't like a Jason Voorhees gore where you might see, like, you know, an arm get cut off or something. No. This is like pure mayhem, debauchery gore. You know, this is... This is very, very violent movie. So says, be warned.
Yeah. It even says, like, people were vomiting, fainting. Somebody called emergency services.
Yes.
I guess Damien Leone said, listen, I would love to have a couple of walkouts. I think that's sort of a badge of honor because it is an intense movie.
It is. Very intense.
I guess they won at the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. They won Best Kill, which was when they killed Allie, the friend with the bleach and the salt and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Best Makeup. Best limited release movie. They won a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely like a splatter film. This is not a slasher film by any means. I mean, it's slasher by nature, but splatter by just effects and everything. I mean, it is super violent and super gory.
And it still gives like a sense of like story. It's not just like
it's not just makes no sense.
Or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like a snuff film or anything like that, or one of those fake snuff films. You know.
Yeah, no, I love this movie.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to the third one and seeing what he has in store. I kind of already have a hint just seeing the trailer. There's been like a teaser released, and it's Art underneath a Christmas tree, and there's a little boy that comes downstairs and is like, Santa! And then Art turns around and you realize it's Art, you know? Yeah. And it's like, you can only imagine what happens from there. So there's probably going to be more, you know, child murders happening.
I don't think we can say that on YouTube.
Well, I don't know. but, that's what the movie was, I think kind of hinting towards.
Anyways, so I found some fun facts about the first Terrifier and, like, the franchise, and I guess David Howard Thornton, when he auditioned for this role, like I was saying earlier, he had to pretend to be a mime and, like, cut somebody's head off. But I guess what won him the role was after he cut the person's head off, he pretended to pour salt in it.
Oh, really?
So maybe that's where they got the idea in the second movie.
Yeah, for the second movie, that would be good.
I guess David Howard Thornton also has previous mime experience, which makes sense. He definitely acts like a mime for sure. Director Damien Leone, he also said that he felt that the 2010s lacked like an iconic horror icon. So he wanted to create one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I would say he certainly did.
Yeah,
I don't know who else would be a 2010s horror icon besides maybe Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, but
yeah, but that's
Pennywise
been
has been done, so it's like
so you can't. He's definitely original with that, I think. Well, I mean, clown idea, I guess.
Yeah,
this is a mime, so I guess it is different.
And speaking of Pennywise, he said he purposely made art as different from Pennywise as possible because by making art not have hair, wearing all black and white, uses weapons, and not speaking. Because Pennywise doesn't ever use weapons.
Yeah, he's more of like an alien. We come to find out he's an alien, but
I guess part of this building too, where they went, the abandoned building, when they're like underground in the tunnels and you see that homeless woman carrying the baby. I guess part of those tunnels are a part of abandoned Seaview Hospital, which was the largest tuberculosis sanatorium in the U.S., and those tunnels there were used to transport all the dead patients that died from TB to keep them out of sight of all the other patients.
Yes, exactly. All the people that were dying from tuberculosis. So a lot of mental hospital, TB hospitals had those.
And so I guess this probably was a pretty haunted set for being a spooky movie anyways.
Oh, I'm sure there was probably some paranormal activity going on there. That's definitely... You got the spot for it. You know?
No, I love Art the Clown. We've seen Terrifier 2. We watch it at least a few times a year, I would say, since it's come out.
Yes, it's it's a long movie too. It's 2.5 hours long, so
it's worth every minute.
It doesn't feel like it's that long though.
No.
You watch it, and you kind of get immediately like drawn into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they do a good job of like appealing to everybody. Like I said, there's a storyline, there's almost like drama, but then there's the gore, there's the scare factor.
Yeah, there's a little bit of comedic relief in there.
A little bit of comedy too.
Yeah, so like you're gonna laugh when he's trying on the glasses and he's like
you
acting.
have to laugh.
You're gonna laugh at that. You're gonna find that funny.
But yeah, anything else you want to say about Art the Clown?
No, I just hope October 11th gets here so we can go to theaters and see it.
I know, I want to go see it in theaters because I'm upset that we never saw Terrifier 2 in theaters. I think it would have been such a cool theater release.
Yes, I definitely agree.
I don't know why we didn't. Maybe it was COVID or something?
I think it was just, we lived too far from the movies. I hate driving far.
Yeah, but I definitely want to go see this one in theaters. I think it's going to be such a cool theater experience.
Yeah.
I hope people are fainting and vomiting.
Yeah, I hope it definitely gets, and I'm sure it'll get great reviews like the second one did, especially if he can, like, make a more of a story structure out of it.
Yeah, which is crazy to me because scary movies like this never get good reviews.
Yeah, I can't tell you one that I've seen get a 7.3.
No, not at
right
86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that's kind of like, because it balances well with like a story and then the gore. It's not just completely all gore, no like concept or storyline or anything. He did a good job balancing like a potential storyline with the film and everything.
I agree.
So, that's all I really got left to add about that.
Yeah, off topic, but make sure you guys are just subscribing if you're watching on YouTube, and if you listen on Spotify, give us a like and a follow.
Yes, please.
We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody listening and tuning in.
We didn't think anybody would ever listen.
I know, we really didn't. We've had, a decent amount of people.
Yeah. So give us a comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about, too.
Yeah,
what you like.
If you have any suggestions of movies and stuff. Or
what episodes you like, what episodes you don't. We've seen pretty much every movie, so we can talk about whatever.
Yeah, any kind of specific genre you want to talk about, or, kill scenes or whatever.
Yeah, we love all that stuff, so let us know.
Yeah.
But until next week.
All right, stay spooky, guys.
Stay spooky.